Now, I've done previous videos before about leaving the job, and I didn't want to get messy with it. But since this is unscripted, I want to be as honest as possible about what's really going on. So, I worked at a library. Sorry. I'm like covering up the microphone with my hand. I worked at the public library as an administrative assistant for 7 years. My experience there when I first got there was, all right, let me just add this in. You know how you go on job sites or whatever, and they have reviews from people that worked at places that say what it's like to work there in different positions and stuff. Open door, not action door, open door? No, something door. I'll figure it out later and put it below, but anyway, this place had not one person like said what it's like to work there. And I was tempted to do it 2 times. I was tempted to do it in the middle of my 7 years, and I was tempted to do it at the end. But I talked myself out of it because I felt like it was petty, and I ain't trying to have bad karma for throwing shade. So anyway, when I first started working there, I was so excited. Like, I really loved the library when I was a kid. And I just thought that it'd be a great place to make a career out of work. I was trained in my profession. I had a degree. And I just really liked the people that I worked with. That's what made it great. They were like a little family. What I didn't care for was the higher ups were in a constant battle. You know, like those rams when they lock horns and they're trying to, bang each other's heads apart. That was them. Every day. Every single day. There'd be shouting, screaming, door slamming, shady shit. And I recall still to this day that someone I was really cool with at work asked me, maybe a week into me working there, do you really want to still work here? Like, are you gonna quit? And I thought that was like the weirdest thing. What you don't understand is sometimes for black people, black women, we don't have, what's the word I'm looking for? Privilege, where we can just be like, no. Like, this was the best job offer I had ever received in life, for one. And who knew when another one like this would come? So I was feeling like, hell no, I ain't going nowhere. Like, they'd have to do some real bullshit for me to be like, I'm out. Ain't nobody doing nothing to me, so I'm good. And number 2, my boss was nice to me. She handpicked me or whatever. And little did I know that she was nice at the beginning, but it doesn't stay like that. Like, as I had been there for a while and seeing people come and go, I knew that she had her favorites. I knew that there was people that she treated better than others. And I also knew that when you're new, she tries to put this persona that everything's great and perfect, and then one day it's not. And you find out the hard way that you're not the favorite, or that you're not, a valued employee that they portrayed you to be. Not portrayed you to be, like, you're not the valued employee that she said that you were, because she treats you like she doesn't value you. And I don't know if anybody else has ever been in this predicament where, I know all bosses are not perfect, but sometimes you get into the predicament where someone of authority over you says something that you don't necessarily agree with, but instead of speaking up in fear of losing your job or whatever it is that they offer, or being scolded, you just go along with it. And I kind of feel like that's what all the employees did. They just basically went along with everything because they were afraid of losing their job or being demoted or being in trouble. Sorry for all the loud noise. So anyway, the person that my boss was butting heads with was over our money. And she was a tyrant all by herself. You know, everybody had issues with her. She thought she was running the show, but she didn't have any employees to run. So she would basically kind of make people think that she would not pay them. But me and the person that I am, I'm like, y'all ain't here wilding out. Like, if she don't pay me, she gonna have a problem. Like, I worked. You can't hold my paycheck hostage because you don't like something. And you're not even my boss. So anyway, I'm jumping ahead. Like I said, when I first started, they was going at it. And I just thought it was weird. And I also thought that maybe they needed to pay closer attention to who they put in charge, because it was very toxic. I also remember, like, 2 years maybe into me working there, there was a moment when we had like a staff get together, and we have one every year where the staff gets together and we do training and all this stuff. And this person came in and they had us do this exercise, and we were supposed to write down like 3 things to how to describe our work environment. And at that time, one of the employees that I was cool with had wrote down toxic, and I wrote down toxic. And I guess we all were supposed to look at our answers at the end, and we both realized that we both thought it was toxic. We're both Virgos, so it's easy to spot a toxic place. But anyway, that should have been my first indication that someone who's been here longer than everybody else that I'm cool with feels like it's a toxic work environment, and I just got here. So what kind of expectations can I have for the future? But what, people were trying to convince themselves that if one of the people that at the top that are button heads ends up retiring, then everything will calm down. It'll be so much easier and nicer. But the problem was that both people at the top were toxic, not just one. And I have to say that everybody, I don't know about everybody else, I feel like they came to me to vent things, and I would listen and understand, but there was nothing I can do. And so after a while, hearing people's stories of how they got screwed over or treated poorly or mistreated by the same person, it just really got under my skin, because I'm just one of those people who likes to help everybody and wants everybody to have a great day. And that's why I enjoyed my job, because people came to me for help, and I was able to provide that, and then go home feeling like my workday was good and I accomplished my goal. But after a while, like, hearing these stories over and over and witnessing it and being treated this way made me bitter. And I was just tired of watching and not being able to do anything. Like, we did a lot of things that we thought would change the work environment for the better, but it was always shot down, or it just fell on deaf ears. Or even sometimes, like, if we had an idea to do something, if everybody's not on board, It's not going to work. And I really believe that, change comes from the top down. That's where the foundation really is at the top. So if you're not doing what you need to in order to make everybody's morality go up, and you just don't care, then it's not going to go up. It's just going to keep going down. And you can't just keep expecting people to work hard 100% and then feel like they're undervalued. You're not going to get what you want out of the workday either. People who feel valued, they put in more work than they're supposed to. People who feel undervalued try to find ways to get out of work. So, of course, there were times when people would call off. And being in administration, I would overhear conversations that I felt were rude and unnecessary. But in my position, I have to be quiet and keep things like that to myself. But it just made me realize what type of people I was working for. Anyway, so I feel like I'm dragging this story out, but I was being treated rather well, and then I got caught up in the middle of some bullshit. And that's when I realized that I'm not immune to the bullshit and that all that other niceness was fake. So the first incident where I kind of was slapped in the face by my boss was she gave me this project to do, and the other person that she was beefing with didn't want it done. She was like holding things hostage basically. And so they had more than one back and forth about whether the change should happen or not. And the other person that my boss was beefing with basically refused to move forward. And she didn't want anyone to move forward. So my boss told me on a sideline to work on the project. So I worked on the project for 30 days, basically. And it was ready to go. And then when it's time to put it out there, 1 second, a garbage truck. When it's time to put it out there, my boss, she played like she never told me to do it, basically. So the other person that she was beefing with at the top came to my desk in my face talking shit, and everyone else seemed to be intimidated by her, but I was like, you're nobody to me, basically. You ain't my boss, you ain't my mama, and you act like a child, so I don't have no respect for you. So I told her basically if she had a problem with anything that I did, if she had a problem with anything that I did, that she needed to speak to my boss. So I guess she called my boss, right? And she was mad that I didn't do the back and forth with her or whatever, and shut her down. So my boss calls me like, I never told you to do that. And I was like, bitch, what? Yes, the fuck you did. And this was the number one problem with my boss. She would tell people to do things, and then she'd be like, I never said that. Or she'd make a rash decision, not thinking it through, and then it'd be all fucked up. Anyway, me as a Virgo, I ain't got time for that. Like, I bring the structure, I bring this is the list. Let's do 1 through 10 and we're finished. So basically, when she was like, I never told you that, And I was like, what, bitch? Yes, the fuck you did. That's when I learned, shout out to Terry, to cover my ass. To make sure that if I'm told to do something, that I got a record of it. Because that shit happened way too often. So anyway, I basically was pissed off. I remember I left my desk and walked out. And I called my boss on the phone to tell her what was going on. Because she wasn't even at work that day. Which, that happens a lot. But anyway, I was like, she came and got in my face about what you told me to do. And she was like, well, I never told you to do that. So I was super duper pissed. Anyway, I called my boyfriend. I vented to him. I went back in there. I'm like, okay, lesson learned. So she went and told the person under her, my boss, she told the person under her that she never told me to do it also. And they just were fucking messy, man. Super messy. So he came to me like, well, she said she never told. And I'm like, why the fuck would I spend all this time working on a project out of my imagination? And I just started this job. It's stupid. I should have known then that that was just the beginning. And so when it got all the way to the end, like that happened over and over. The other person that she was beefing with eventually left. But I feel like she got worse because she felt like she was going to take over. And she likes to use intimidation. And I ain't got time for that. And I ain't got time for fake motherfuckers either. And I have to tell you this right now. She was fake. And when I say fake, I mean, she was nice and stuff when she wanted you to do something. But if you did something that she didn't like, it was a whole different person in that room. She would embarrass you, degrade you, talk shit about you behind your back. But don't let you do something good. She'll take the credit. So anyway, in the middle of everything, she had her moments where she was nice. Like, don't get me wrong, she wasn't a horrible person. She hired me, and I was grateful for that. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna be kissing your asshole for the rest of my life either. And I remember also that when I first started working there, there was a lady who worked there also, and she retired out, and she pulled me to the side and she told me, you don't have to stay here. Don't ever feel like you have to stay. You can do better. And that always stuck with me. So anyway, it was just a lot of confusion with her. And like I said, she wasn't a horrible person. Like, on my birthday, she would take me out to a lunch, and at Christmas, she would give me a nice little bonus of $50, or one time she gave me $100, which, not to be funny, but I fucking deserved it. I deserved it to be treated like a valued employee because I was there, I was doing my job, and ain't nobody had to watch me. And people needed me to be there for their own sanity. So anyway, she's not a bad person, but she definitely is not good at socializing with people and social skills and knowing how to communicate with people to get them to do the best job. Like, she needed to have some managerial training, some social skill training, because there were so many wonderful employees that we lost because she treated them like shit and they couldn't take it anymore. And I was one of them. But of course, there was many who stayed because they felt obligated to stay because they were so close to retirement. And that sucks too. So anyway, the final straw for me was we were having a meeting, and this was like, all right, COVID happened, and then we all shut down and were working from home, and then we came back. It was during our comeback, and so we couldn't have more than 10 people in a room for meetings. We were having a manager meeting. Most people were online, and some of us were in, a meeting room doing one online video. And so everybody wasn't able to talk into a mic because we were all in one room and only one person was on the mic. So she said something, or I had something that I needed to ask. And when I said it, her reaction was, and this is what I usually would get, mind you, let me add this little tidbit. People at work started to nickname her the Grinch because her eyebrows would go down like this and she would get an attitude about shit. And her eyebrows would be, was it the Grinch? No, it was Oscar the Grouch. Correction. Anyway, it was accurate. She was mean when she wanted to be. So we're having this meeting. I had a question. So somebody else had to tell her what I said because I wasn't on the mic. And her response was kind of, she wasn't really listening, which is another issue. And then she kind of just, she totally fucking embarrassed me in front of everybody. Every manager was in that meeting. And she basically said that I didn't want to do my job. Something about an email. I was just trying to get clarity. And I think it was about we had moved some things around for COVID, and I wanted to make sure that the patrons who came to the website were directed to the right person, because things were changed for COVID and things were getting lost. And so I wanted to make sure that I was not the only one receiving them, because when we first started, 3 people were getting the emails, and then we would divide them between who the question was for. But all of a sudden, one person was getting them and things were getting lost. So I was trying to clarify and get that issue fixed. But instead, she decided to make it sound like I didn't want to do my job. And she kind of just did that. And I was super embarrassed because I feel like I always do my job, like over and above. And for her to say that, not even directly to me, but like in front of everybody, like I'm a lazy person, was like a slap in the face. And so that did it for me. Mind you, I did this because when I first started working, like after that first incident happened, I had walked into her office one day and I was talking to her, and then whatever I was saying, she must not have been interested, and she shooed me. And I thought that was super fucking rude. So my thing is, my parents raised me with respect. I respect my elders. I respect other people, and they should respect me, and that's just how I feel about it. My problem that I had was I did not speak up for myself then. So I take full responsibility for not speaking up for myself. I take full responsibility for letting all that bullshit go on for so long. And I take full responsibility for all the moments when I should have said something and didn't. That's all on me. So when she shooed me that day, I was too through. I was like, am I a dog? Like, Who does that? That shows no respect at all, to shoo someone. I'm not a little kid. And the funny thing is, I always was thinking, like, she bring her grandkids in here. She talks about her kids. And I've never, ever seen her treat her grandkids or her kids any different than up on a pedestal. But her employees, dirt. Lower than dirt. Doormat even. Under the dirt. So, back to the meeting. When she did that, and even before that, like, she wasn't even in the office at all anymore. Like, she just was focused on not the day-to-day shit anymore. And she had another project going on, but she still could have been present. So, I was already feeling like headaches every day when I come in. And it was just the stress level. I was just really tired of carrying this weight on my shoulders of unhappiness and feeling like no matter what I did, it would never get better. And feeling like everything I did was not appreciated. Mind you, it was appreciated by the staff, but not her. And if it was appreciated by her, she rarely showed it. Like, she showed it on my birthday, and she showed it at Christmas. But the rest of the year, pick and choose. So anyway, I was just tired. I was just really tired. And I was getting to that level of, let me add this little tidbit. So, my break from, work, when everybody had to stay at home, I spent a lot of time meditating. Like, I had tried that before, but not like this. Like, I really went in, like, every day for 30 days. And after that, I haven't stopped meditating. And that was last year. It really changed my mindset and the way that I deal with people and the way I see things. So I ended up feeling like when I got back to work, we had to wear those masks all day, and it just didn't mesh well with me anymore. Having that break away from the negative feelings and feeling woosah and then going back into that, it was like, no. No, bitch, don't you do it. Like, you can't come back in here. Like, I'm not the same anymore. That's how I felt. So I would feel myself like, I have an anger problem. I ain't gonna front. I've been working on it for years. And people don't even know that I have an anger problem. That's how much I've worked on it. So the interesting thing is that after the break and I came back, my anger peaked. Like, it just rose up. Every time I went in there and something happened, I'd be up to here in 5 seconds. And it scared me because I didn't know if I could control myself. It was getting to the point where I felt like I was just going to have an outburst. And it's happened before. Let's see. Quick little side story. When I was in 5th grade, there was this girl, and her name was Antoinette, and she used to all the time. And one day, I just must have couldn't take it anymore. And so I took a pair of scissors and I cut her bangs off. I don't know why. But I was just that angry that I just needed her to shut the fuck up. Right? Mind you, she jumped up and she was like, Mrs. Beard. That was our teacher's name. cut my hair. The sad thing is that our teacher, she didn't call my mom. She didn't send me to the principal's office. She ain't do nothing. She just was like, well, Keisha don't bother nobody, so what'd you do to her? I know. I got away with it because it's not my character to hurt other people or to go after other people or to do anything to other people. But if I get pushed to that point, then I lose control. And so I've been battling my whole life trying not to lose control again like that or worse. So during this time, you know, my anger was like over the top, and I was just afraid that if I stayed any longer that I wouldn't even be able to use them for a reference, you know what I'm saying? So I ended up going home, talking it over with my significant other, who's been so super supportive. And he was like, it's time for you to leave then. And I figured out a way to take care of everything, give me a little cushion for some time. And then I put my 2 weeks in. I think that was the hardest part, was not knowing what the 2 weeks were going to be like, because I was ready to walk out the door that day. But I wanted to make sure that I kept my integrity and was able to get another job later. So anyway, that's my story about why I quit. You want to know what it's like to work at the library? I'll just say this. People come in all the time and be like, oh, the library is a great place to work. You can read all day. First of all, that always irritates me, because people at the library who work at the library, they don't get hired to read books. They get hired to check out books. They get hired to research shit. They get hired to do programs. They get hired to clean up. They get hired to do the money. They get hired to type up letters. They get hired to do actual work, not read books. So staff that works at the library are not all sitting around in a circle and they're in Indian style reading books and collecting checks. That is not what the job is. The other thing that they do is deal with a lot of people with mental health issues and people who are homeless, because that's who they serve. They serve people who need free stuff. And so incidents happen all the time. All the time. They're friends with the police. A lot. So whoever told you that the library is quiet, it is not quiet. It's not a quiet place to work. There's people that come in and they be loud, or they be on their phones. Like, it's just like anywhere else. The good things about working at the library were the programs they had for the kids were great. The people that I worked with were great. And partnering with other people and other nonprofits in the community was one of my favorite things about working at the library. Sorry, there's a fly in here. I don't even know how it got in. So you want to hear an incident that happened that was crazy? Let's see. People steal toilet paper out of the bathroom all the time. There was a dude that used to come in and flood the toilet with toilet paper and poop. There was some angry dude that came in to the library and got pissed off and went out the door and broke the door, and then he went to the back parking lot and went and damaged a bunch of employee cars. Every time there's a pedophile or somebody who's wanted, like, I don't know how many times I can tell you that the U.S. Marshals came in there with a picture that we had to hang up and we had to look for him and call him if we seen him. Drug deals in the parking lot all the time. Just random weird stuff. Yeah, so there's a guy that always comes in and he has mental health issue. And he's really, really loud, like screaming and rude. Like, he's just not very focused. But I mean, this is the type of stuff that you have to deal with. You have to deal with people with all kinds of issues and still be nice and friendly. Yeah. So, I mean, that was a long story, and that was basically why I moved on from the library. Like, I didn't have to deal with all the patron stuff and the crazy stuff up front because I was in the back. They had to deal with a lot of stuff, like homeless people sleeping, and people washing their clothes in the sink. It was a lot. Like, they really have to be well trained. They work really hard there. And I don't know. So anyway, that last draw that I said, where I got embarrassed in front of the entire management staff, I just felt like I deserve better than this. And I went to school to become an entrepreneur and to run my own business. And the position that I was in was basically, there was nowhere for me to go up. It would just be, I'm going to sit at this desk until I'm 65. And I'm a young spring chicken, so that was not going to happen. Like, I'm not going to deal with this bullshit until I'm 65. Like, there's so much more out there for me. And like I said, that was like the most I had ever made, but it wasn't that much. Let me say it like this. When I started, they gave me like the lowest on the totem pole of what they was offering. And then I got a raise like on my 6 months or whatever when they realized how good I really was at my job. But one of the people that worked in payroll told me that I was way underpaid for my position. And so I looked it up and they were right. But it was all good. Like, everybody has to start somewhere. And when I started, like I said, it was way more than I had ever made. But that's just not where I plan to stop. I plan to continue and keep going. So I had put in my 2 weeks or whatever, and my boss hadn't come in to the building again, so I had to email it to her. And then I don't know, her reaction irritated me because it was all about her. Like, she didn't really ask what was going on when it first happened. The first 2 days, it was all about her and what's happening to her. And then she had somebody come over, the HR person, to try to get more information out of me. And I felt weird telling him, like, that I'm just not happy. And this is the other thing, like, there's a stigma in the workplace about mental health. Mind you, there were many days where I felt like I needed a mental health day just to be away from her because it was so taxing. It was so taxing to work for her mentally because she would just break you down. And you can't break people down and not build them back up. So he comes over and he's like, "Why are you leaving?" And I'm like, "I'm just not happy here, and I gotta do what's best for me." And I don't know why there is that stigma about mental health, But there shouldn't be, because that's like the most important thing. Like, if you're not mentally sound and mentally healthy, then everything else falls to shit. So it's highly important. And I think during COVID that it has become way more acceptable. Like, I remember them talking about it and like kind of trying to do a campaign about taking a mental health day or whatever. If you called your boss for real back then and was like, I'm taking a mental health day, she would talk shit. So after they started that, then she thought it was fun. And she was like, I'm taking a mental health day. But I was not brave enough to try and do the same thing. Like, a sick day is a sick day. I'll just have a bad back instead. So anyway, you know, life happens and things happen to everybody in their own life, but I never brought that to work. I was always trying to make sure that I was there to do the best job and not harp on what's going on in my life and what makes me not be able to do my job or whatever it is. I'm there to do a job, and when I go home, then I go home and it is what it is. I'll deal with it when I get there. So, you know, I'm sure he reported back and said exactly what I said. So then, like, the next day, she wanted to have a talk and she wanted to eat and stuff. And I'm like, I haven't eaten since COVID, like out, and I'm not trying to eat somewhere without a mask, so I'm good. So she was like, well, you can just come and talk to me. So I drove out to where she was stationed at to talk to her, and it was super fake, and I could tell. So she tried to trap me in the room too, and then she did her fake, so what's going on? And I was like, I don't know what you mean. Because, you know, when you put in your 2 weeks, there's nothing that says that you have to specifically say why you're leaving. And when I looked it up and I was trying to look for the perfect words for why you're leaving a toxic work environment without saying it's a toxic work environment, you're never supposed to tell them that it's them. That just so I didn't want to even have a conversation with her, but I felt kind of forced to, and so I was like not wanting to be forthcoming because I felt like she would make an excuse, or she was just looking for some information so she could turn it. I worked with this person for 7 years, so I already know how she operates. And I'm very reserved at work because people that I don't really know, I don't want them all in my business unless I invite you in. So anyway, she got pissed off because I wouldn't give up all the juicy details she wanted to have. And then I basically was like, all right, we're done talking about this. I'm about to go. And I don't owe her shit. I don't owe her nothing. I gave her 7 years of work, and I was only planning to be there for 5. I had a 5-year plan, and I stayed for 7. And I feel like it wasn't, I learned a lot. You know, I take a lesson in everything, but I deserve so much more. Like, I am trained in my brain to know that I don't deserve nobody's bullshit, and I don't care who it is. And if anything has been taught to me in this last year is that I am perfectly capable of running my own business and being successful. And I don't need to beg anybody to give me an opportunity, and I don't need to beg anybody to give me respect or value. I'm gonna provide it for myself, and that's where I'm at. So the reason I said that it was fake how she was acting is because as soon as I was like, all right, well, is there anything else, because I'm getting ready to go, like, I was polite the whole time. I didn't say anything rude or anything. I just basically told her that she's not about to get no information out of me because there's nothing to talk about. And then, she gonna jump up and fly out of there. And then she went to get something out of her car that she was supposed to give to me, and I'm right behind her, and she slams the door in my face. So, that tells me you're exactly who I thought you were. And I ain't got time for this bullshit no more. People think that you owe them something. I don't owe nobody shit. I owe me. I'm here for my life and my life only. If you don't understand that, then get on. It's just a job. I could work anywhere. I can be anywhere in the world. I don't have to be here in this little ass town, in a little ass library, working for some bitch ass lady who got an attitude and treats people like shit. For what? Why would I waste my life doing that? I could travel the world. I could move to Mexico. I could do whatever the fuck I want to do. Anyway, I seemed really angry, but I'm over that shit now. Like, I've been working from home for over a year. And yes, it's difficult. Yes, it takes a lot of determination. But I was giving all that shit to other motherfuckers who didn't appreciate it. So I might as well give it to myself and reap all the rewards for it. So anyway, I know that was some long ass shit. But you gotta do what you gotta do. And there was a quote that I was gonna say, consistency is key. But I was also gonna say, do what the fuck you wanna do. Say what the fuck you wanna say. I've been quiet for too long. And I've been doing what I thought other people wanted me to do for too long. And I'm not doing it no more. So if you don't like it, fuck you. And if you love it, I love you. Simple as that. And I'm out. Next time, we'll talk about some more bullshit.